This perennial is so common that you have probably seen it in gardens or flower arrangements without realizing it. You might mistake it for sage or lavender if you didn't know any better. Russian sage is lovely because it brings out the best in the other perennials it's planted near. I've compiled what I consider to be the most crucial information regarding growing Russian sage and planting it. Number 1. Russian sage is not a real sage. Pravskia, often known as Russian sage or Salvia yangi, is not the same as true sage or Salvia officinalis. Despite their pleasant aroma, the leaves of Russian sage are not typically consumed as food. Interestingly enough, it isn't even a native of Russia. This hardy perennial was named by a Russian botanist, but it originates in Central and South Asia. Number 2. Russian sage is suitable for a wide range of garden conditions. Since it can survive in dry conditions and is resistant to pests, this perennial could have tolerant as its middle name. But there is one thing you need to remember. Only once it has had a chance to get established will its tolerance begin to work. In full light, this showstopper will flower from July till October. Its silvery green foliage pattern gives visual appeal to a plant even before it blooms. Russian sage may be grown in gardens from zone 3 to 9. Number 3. Russian sage belongs in pollinator gardens. Pollinators like bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds will go crazy for them. Flowers on a spike may be little, but it's the abundance of them and their potent scent that attracts pollinators. Number 4. Russian sage is critter resistant. So long as we're discussing about wildlife, here's some good news. Deer, squirrels, rabbits, and similar animals tend to avoid Russian sage because they don't like the taste. Animals in the area won't bother the Pravskia plant very much because of its fragrant and tasty leaves. You can use it to keep pests away from your other plants by planting it in large quantities and strategically placing it about your garden. Number 5. Russian sage is perfect in both living and cut arrangements. Russian sage's subdued blue tones complement the bolder hues of plants like black-eyed Susan, echinacea, and roses. It can also be used in the back of the border, alongside tall gladioli and Japanese anemone. It lasts for a long time as a cut flower, but even after its prime has passed, it can be preserved as a lovely dried flower. Number 6. You don't need to fertilize Russian sage. There is no need to fertilize Russian sage. It's true that both overwatering and over-fertilizing can harm a plant's root system. A layer of new compost applied each spring, however, will help the plant thrive for decades. The same is true of an autumn mulching. The greatest care you can provide smaller Russian sage cultivars grown in containers is to replace the potting soil each year. Number 7. Russian sage is one of those perennials that you only prune in spring. The Russian sage plant is a perennial shrub. As the temperatures drop in the fall, it will shed most of its emerald green leaves. The silvery stems and graceful seed heads ensure that it will continue to be attractive. With the arrival of spring comes the necessity of making way for fresh vegetation. The dry stuff is cut back to within 4 inches of the ground at this point. Your efforts to prune will be rewarded with an abundance of blooms. If you notice any new growth, though, be sure to shield it by removing any dead branches from above. Well, thanks for watching video from Catchy Garden. Don't forget to click like and subscribe button to always support our channel. You can also turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos from us. We'll see you in the next videos.